This is Sunil Ramkrishnan, and here basically we are discussing about the one topic that is formula topic, and this is basically 188 number part. In this basically, just now we were basically discussing. Uh, just now basically we are discussing about the topic that is basically the old topic basically which we have already discussed. Then also brief basically we are going to type like subscription, what is subscription plan, that we have discussed, what is World Bank, that also we have discussed. In real basically USA is number one country, but in USA is number one country in software industry, and USA is number one country basically in software industry, but in real basically it's not like that also we have discussed. And in this basically we have discussed that government is sending the pipeline, oxygen data pipeline. Sorry, not government. Actually, the subscription plan groups basically, that is the World Bank is sending the oxygen data to the each and every city. For example, there are 100 people staying in one city, so they are sending the 100 people data only. And if the permission basically is, for example, is a particular person is moving to one city to another, then basically his oxygen data are also sent basically. So this basically is connected to the country to country. That basically comes into the visa side. That basically also we have discussed. Then basically the .NET power supply basically from .NET, how basically the .NET is created, how the .NET basically got created from the thousand cities. That we have discussed. Uh, Now basically new topic basically we were discussing about, that is basically the what subscription to plan groups are. That also basically most of we had discussed. Then basically the subscription plan basically which government takes, that basically takes according to the disease. For example, few people have some diabetes disease, few people have some blood pressure disease, few people have some heart disease, few people have some stomach disease, few people have some head disease, few people have some eye disease. So each and every disease are there. So each and every data basically are government is collecting, and then basically they are sending to the World Bank basically. So this also basically we have discussed. Then basically we have discussed that each and every Bollywood industry basically they have the video of each and every cities. For example, how Vadodara city was started, the lava blast happened, and how from lava basically the human generation started. From lava sand basically the human generation started, and how that human converted into the how that lava sand converted into the human, and how basically 3 to 4 people how they started the Vadodara city, and how the activation of human happened from the sand. Basically, from sand the human was created. That video also basically the Bollywood groups have, because Bollywood groups is telling that we are basically creating the cities and we are keeping the control of each and every cities. Then basically we have discussed that how the according to the stories of the each and every person, the blood cells gets generated. For example, there is one person basically his childhood basically was very bad. So the blood cells basically in his body basically has generated according to that only. Then basically he become young. Then basically he got one marriage, and that there basically he got some divorce. Then basically according to that the disease got then the blood cells got generated. Like this basically he got lots of struggles. Then basically the blood cells got generated. He went to Singapore but not able to get the job. Then he basically that blood cells got generated that he has not got the job. So basically the blood cells generates according to the stories, right? Blood cells basically is generating according to the stories. So I will take one example. For example, one person basically went to Singapore and he was not able to find the job. So he came back. He basically came back to India. So basically, here the story was he went to Singapore. The government has tracked that he was basically whenever he is issuing the visa, whenever the basically is applying for the visa, and whenever he is getting the visa, that time basically government knows that for which purpose basically, for which maksad basically. In Hindi basically it's called maksad. For which purpose he is going to Singapore. He is going to visit to Singapore. So that purpose basically the government knows, right? So it's not like that if one person is going to Singapore and government is not tracking it. It's not like that, right? Because he is an Indian citizen, then basically he is the Indian government basically will be responsible, and it's basically the Indian passport basically which is going to be used. And if he's not getting job, that means basically some Indian person is only basically involved in this. That is by default, right? Because Indian person was involved in this. Basically, if he has basically went to Singapore, then basically the passport department basically was supposed to help him, but they basically not helped him. For that, basically Singapore government can't do anything, because Singapore government does that only what Indian government is telling to them. So in this, basically, he's not getting job. That means it's Indian government, uh, Indian government's what to say, Indian government's problem, right? So they might be having some problem with that particular person. That's why basically they have not helped, and they have told Singapore government not to give him job. So that basically connected to uh, that basically connected one more story that that basically person mind basically what created that he is not going to get job. Sorry, he is not getting job in Singapore, and the mindset was Singapore. And the person basically thought that the Singapore government has not helped him. The Singapore government has not helped him. So like this type of basically the mindset got set, right? So that basically the blood cells got generated into his body. So basically blood cells basically he is not generating, right? The government is generating, right? Government issued that he has not got the job. So basically government keeps track of each and every user stories. That's why basically the Twitter basically was purchased by the one of the businessmen. Um, One of the businessmen, I think Elon Musk or some American businessman basically purchased the Twitter. So basically he knows, right? He want to basically know the basically each and every person's blood cells, right? That's why basically he purchased. Otherwise, basically is by collecting the information of each and every person, what he is going to get. He might get some business. He might get some 100 crore, 200 crore business. Not more than basically that he is going to get, right? So, but he basically purchased a Twitter. So there might be some reason, right? And that also is a American businessman without any profit and loss. Basically, they don't American don't send a $1 also. If they feel that it's going to be a profit in that country and in that company, then only basically they spends $1 also. So it's like that basically. So that's why basically the Twitter was purchased. That's why the Facebook basically is so famous in India. Facebook is basically helping lots of Indians basically. So basically they are helping. Why? Because they are getting the blood cells data. It's not like that they are helping basically, and um, in the return basically they are not getting any. So they are basically getting the each and every user stories, right? So user stories are basically the blood cells chain basically, you can say. And that basically the government also know that there is IT industry, and the digital world also know that there is IT industry which are basically keeping tracks of each and every information. So that basically each and every people basically handles according to the user story. Few people says that we whatever see we says we only know whether this is correct or not. So that basically one blood cells is there. So what actually the real is and what actually the false is from user stories also you can't track, because they know that it's a digital world and any information can be leaked anytime. So for that basically the things are basically there. So lots of things are there basically, right? So lot of basically the blood cells chain basically. I have taken one example. um, there is one VC++ software, right? That basically everybody might be knowing. In one 1998 or 99, basically that got banned. Government actually banned that software. So that was basically the plan of the some person, or it was something else basically. For that basically, Bollywood people has told me one story. The story was like that. The basically to basically harm one person basically they have actually done one plan. And no, sorry, to keep track of that person basically They have done one plan. Actually, they want to do harm to that person. Basically, that was the basically not harm. Also, basically, it might be to take care. Also, it can be harm also. That basically depend upon the person's current status. Basically, you can just basically, for example, what is the current status of that particular person. From that, basically, you can believe that whether it was the harm plan or it was not harm plan. Not harm plan is basically to going to take care of that particular person. So the story is like this, that the VC++ basically there is one software which was basically banned in 1998 and 1999. That is basically VC++. That is basically the Windows or the Windows application. Basically, it's connected with the C and C++. So there was one application that basically got banned in 1998, 1997. I think the process might have started, and there might be some user story basically that due to that user story, and the application got banned. And there are basically the government user stories also basically connected with that. So that basically banned in front of the public, that got banned, right? VC plus plus basically, I always tell that basically whatever software exists, according to the software, basically the physical creation has already done, right? So the Microsoft is basically has created the .NET. For .NET, basically they have created hundred and sorry thousand cities already. So first they have created thousand cities to create .NET, and then basically they created the software. It's not like that they first created the software and then basically the thousand city was created. It's not like that. First they created the thousand cities, and then basically the .NET software creation happened. And that basically each and every commands are there, each and every tools are there, each and every user controls are there, each and every custom controls are there. So basically each and every things are there, and that is basically directly connecting to the creations. That is connecting to the creation, and the creation basically is physical creation, and then basically it converts to the blood cells creation. So it's basically, you can say the VC++ creation happened, and VC++ basically got banned in 1998, 1999. The process might have started because to ban basically it takes lots of time. So they basically banned the VC++ in 1998, 99. Then basically this was basically banned done in certain group. Basically they have divided certain groups. They basically know that VC++ is ongoing. So first they banned the VC++, and they slowly basically the in front of the public basically they stopped the supporting of VC++. If the support software will stop, support department will stop doing the support, then basically by default the public is going to stop the using of VC++. So like this, basically the VC++ got banned in front of the public. But actually the VC++ creation was ongoing. So just see basically the plan. If any groups do the plan, up to what level basically they do the plan, and each and every tracking information also basically tracking means plan means the blood cells harm or good. There are two things basically, right? One is positive things basically they are doing, and one second one is negative things. Negative means they are going to harm his body. Positive means they are not going to harm his body. So they have done like this. Basically, the VC++ got banned, but actually the VC++ was going on creation. The creation was negativity and positivity both side. Basically, the creation was ongoing. So like this, basically, slowly they in 2002 3 basically they started PHP creation, and they done the verification also. The public is not able to track or not. For that, basically, first they just slowly basically they just introduce one small DLL, that is basically PHP.dll. So basically they were tracking that basically how many senior people members are there basically who are trying to decode that DLL. Then how many members are there basically who basically really know like the physical creation happens once, and then basically the virtual creation happens. That is basically the .NET creation has happened. Building .NET cities has created, then basically the .NET software has created. So this type of information basically who has that verification also they have done. So that basically government is directly 100% connected, and connected and if it's a government, then police department is by default always connected. So just see basically to do certain tasks up to what level the plans basically are done by the software industry. This is software industry, right? This VC is created by one of the software groups basically, plus the construction groups, right? First VC was not created. First the construction of the VC was created. That is basically here we will take that the 2000 city was created, and on the base of 2000 city the VC was created. Like so, like this the VC got created on the base of that construction of that is basically the 2000 cities which was created, and on the base of the 2000 city basically the people who was knowing, the very few people know, right? The BC creation has stopped, and uh, decode basically is not possible. Like this basically the VC got closed in front of the public, but few people basically, that is basically the government industry, it's basically converted into the industry, right? Because profit and loss everywhere basically happens nowadays in the government. Previously government was basically doing the um, help everything basically. Now basically totally the government has also changed, because the swapping of the government has happened. Because for example, in Ireland basically the US government are working, in UAE government, in UAE basically country the Indian government are working. Like this in Indian government basically some other country might government people might be working. So it's the totally change basically has happened. So here basically we are not discussing that basically. Here basically we are discussing about the BC which was actually basically banned, and that was basically created from the 2000 cities, 2000 3000 basically whatever. So on the base of VC was created, then basically it got banned. But the purpose basically of the VC was still not got over. So basically first they banned the VC and then basically in 2003 to they started PHP creation, and they have done each and every perfect verification also. Each and every perfect verification also they have done by creating lots of fruits from the PC from the PHP software. PHP energy got generated. PHP energy, and from PHP energy basically the fruits got created, and lots of fruits basically was used also. And the people basically they were going to harm. They are basically given the foods and each and everything to that person also. Like this basically they verified each and everything. So basically, we are not discussing about who is the person basically, but this is basically 100% created to created for some negative and positive task. That can be basically, you can basically, if you want to track, then basically you have to know the exact status of that particular person, for which person basically that was created. So that's very difficult, right? If VC plus plus basically to create VC plus plus only, for to create VC plus plus it has taken 3000 cities. To create one city it takes 15 to 20 lakh crore. So it's a 300 3000 cities. So 3000 cities multiply by 15 lakh crore. So just to see the amount of the investment also. So if they have done the amount of investment up to that level, then basically the person who is going to get positive and negative effect, that person also might be some, he also might not be some normal person, right? So he also might not be some normal person. So basically the investment which was uh, done, that investment also they have to cover. For that also basically up to that level the business development officer do the plan. Because nowadays in from the sales basically it's very difficult to take the money from of the investment. It's very difficult because it's a long term plan. Like for example, if you are doing one creation one city of the 15 lakh crore, 15 to 20 lakh crore you are investing. So from sales basically you can take that amount back basically so easily, because from sales basically it's not possible. So other way basically they are used. So here basically when the VC was banned, then basically the PHP was created. From the PHP basically they want to do certain level of task basically. If anybody was able to track, then basically they basically whatever tracking information they have kept, they have kept. Then basically the PHP framework got created, Y2I. Then basically the Cake software, Cake framework is there. Then basically the many frameworks are right there, right? Like this. Mm, Assume that there are around, I think, 35 framework basically available in the market for the PHP, and few framework basically. I will take the name basically, that how many frameworks are there. Um Assume that there are basically around 35 frameworks, and from 35 framework basically the for example, there are Laravel, there are Symfony, there are Cake PHP, Y2I is there, then Fuel PHP is there. Like this, basically, there are many frameworks, and more than basically the 35 frameworks are there basically. So here, basically, we are not discussing the framework basically. So how many framework basically the PHP were created. So first they created the VC++, then basically they created the PHP, then they created the PHP framework, then they created the WordPress also. From WordPress, basically WordPress is also created from PHP DLL only. Because if you decode the WordPress, then basically it's a combination of PHP and Python, and then basically few DLLs are by default used, because nobody don't know na. The PHP is created from VC++, and which is already banned. So you can just imagine the critical level also. So like this, basically the VC++ got created, PHP created. So basically to do some certain level of task, basically they created this, right? So like this, the task basically might have completed, because it's very difficult basically to keep information without leak. So information leaks very fast. So here basically we are not discussing the information also, how the information is getting leaked. So here basically the things was basically the new topic basically we have discussed, that was basically the blood cell story which was basically created. So here basically what is the thing basically which VC++ is telling basically. The VC++ is telling that in the universe basically there are many objects which is basically going to attract to certain objects. So basically the normal person basically staying in Earth planet can able to track that this particular object is attracting to the Earth planet, until basically the Earth planet is not get Earth planet, that object is not coming near to the Earth planet. The normal person also basically the normal person can't track that the object is coming near to the Earth planet, until basically some disaster happens. Then only basically he can track that something has happened in the Earth planet, but that also basically he can't track the which object basically which was attracted. So if basically I say that the VC++ was created for this purpose only, then basically it would not be wrong basically, right? Because there are few basically objects basically which basically says that the public is not supposed to aware. Few people basically are supposed to aware that this object is basically ongoing, this software is ongoing. So like this basically there are many metrics basically are created, that for example one person told that um, do you know basically the story which basically if that person is going to read that story, then basically 100% that universe object is going to attract to the Earth planet. Then basically that person was also basically shocked what actually he was trying to tell, because his blood cells was generated up to that level that the universe object basically was going to attract. Then basically the one person, this was basically the forum basically ongoing between the Bollywood person and the software industry. because both basically are connected with each other, right? Because Bollywood industry know the physical creation, that is basically the .NET is created. .NET first .NET is not created. First the physical location is created. That's why basically the Bollywood groups are directly connected with the .NET. So .NET has not created first. .NET basically is not created first. First the physical object the dot of the .NET basically has created. So like this basically the universe basically person told that the particular object basically was getting attract from that book basically reading. So basically he told that how basically it's possible, how basically one person's body can attract the universe object. He was also basically shocked basically by his answer basically. Then basically that one Bollywood person told that there are lots of few people basically in this world, they have sent their data in the universe, that also basically the human satellites also basically can't track that. Then basically he was shocked basically which type of data basically he has sent to the universe. That basically Bollywood told that we are basically trying to find out what actually that was the user story which actually he passed to the universe, that also basically long far, where basically human satellites also basically can't reach, where human basically can't reach up to that level. Basically he has sent the user story, and then basically disconnected the user story also. So basically you can just imagine the person power also, that that person has sent the user story in the universe and then basically disconnected also. How basically might be possible basically to disconnect one user story, that is basically chain basically. It takes thousands of satellite basically. This satellite group basically knows basically to disconnect the chain between the universe and the earth planet. It takes thousands of satellites. So the Bollywood person was telling that he basically passed his user story in sky, sorry, in universe, and then he disconnected his connection also. How basically he might have done? So that basically the Bollywood people told that we are trying to find out, because it might possible that if anything happens to that person, then basically what that user story which has basically sent long before, what matrix that is going to generate in universe, because he might not exist in the world. So he told that basically for that basically we basically are trying to find out lots of things. Basically we are trying to find what actually the user story he has sent. For that basically we have taken his blood, we are reading his brain, we are trying to find out what actually he is doing, we are tracking each and every information whatever things he is doing. So like this basically they track each and everything basically, that how basically sent that data, how the data was sent, how and how basically disconnected that chain also basically. That was basically also one of the questions, because thousands of satellite are required to break that chain basically. Thousands of satellite basically required the change also. And basically he told that software industry has reached up to that level that they can basically access any of the body parts from the laptops or from the computers or from the satellites or from the nuclear plant, from the power companies. For power company basically, by sitting in the computer, they can easily able to access each and every person's body's parts basically. For example, head part, eye part, nose part, neck part, hand parts, leg parts. So basically, he that Bollywood person told this all thing basically. The software person basically was shocked that basically they don't know anything about this whole thing. Basically, the each and every body parts are also basically the can be accessed from the computers. So he was shocked basically. The Bollywood person was not shocked, because they know they have created the .NET equal to thousands, 2000, 3000 cities. So from 3000 cities, the .NET has created. So that, but the Bollywood person knows that this type of power exists in the world. So this basically comes into the power. From this also basically we have discussed that this comes into the power. So like this, the discussion of the that Bollywood person and the software industry person has reached up to that how many powers are there in this world, how many powers are there in this world. Then basically the one person told that power actually, what actually mean by power. For example, in India, for example, in if you want to purchase anything basically, right? If you want to purchase any fruits, if you want to purchase any house, if you want to purchase any car, then basically any what required, that is by default the money is required, or basically you should have that much power basically they can give you in credit. So that is basically very rare happens. So here basically what is the thing basically, the power here basically comes like that if any person basically wants anything, many objects in the earth planet, then basically he required the money, right? He required the money. Then basically the universe person told that we basically want a few planets in the sky, and that basically you have to create from the earth planet. Then basically he told that for that basically we required few blood cells which can basically create these types of planets. Basically the types of planet was also basically the requirement which was given by the universe person to the nuclear power plant. So the nuclear power plant basically person told that basically that we basically got the requirement of the planets, and planets here are equal to blood cells, that basically everybody knows, and each and every doctor also knows that if any blood cells basically come into the picture, that is basically by default connecting to the planets. So that person told that that nuclear power plant basically person told that yeah basically we have got the requirement and we are basically um, doing the plan to create the planet. That was basically the, for that basically he collected a set of industry basically, because each and every industry basically is going to one day going to use that blood cells which was going to create. So that blood cells basically was going to use in the earth planet only. So which person are going to use that blood cells, that was basically kept as a dynamic. So basically for any industry basically the blood cells was going to create. So for that basically the each and every industry person basically was selected, that this type of person basically are going to be used in the this type of planets creation. So the human resource basically department came into picture, because they got, that is basically the India human resource department. That is basically everybody knows that there are 10 to 20 people, 10 to 20 people basically who are basically into the human resource of collection of the each and every data. For that basically human resource department are there, and they only basically handle the entire India human resource department. So each and every company basically are each and every people are doing the work, that basically which person is doing in job in which company, that basically the 10 to 20 people knows, because without their approval basically nobody gets the job, because they only says that we are basically handling the planets creation. Like this basically the planets creation basically started, the creation process started, the human resource basically started the designing the architecture of the post basically. If the new post is supposed to create, then basically that also basically they basically told that yeah basically we are ready to create the up to this level post also. So you can just imagine the human resource department also, who are up to the level basically, up to the level they are designing, because it's not a normal stuff basically the companies are doing. Like the companies are doing not a normal stuff, right? They are basically doing the creation of planets. It's not like that they are doing any creation of vehicles or any softwares. Software basically are getting used in the human resource human normal needs, right? But the main stuff was the creation of planets basically. So like this the planet design started, like this the planet creation started, and that planet is going to use as a light one day. That planet is going to send one light in the earth planet one day, because sun, there is no like sun and there is no like moon, that we have already discussed. So this planet is basically going to contribute little bit light in the universe. So that creation basically is ongoing. So that creation basically is ongoing. That basically the human resource department knows. So the human resource department basically are directly connected with the set of experts group basically, that is by default everybody knows. So like this the human resource department created, like this the company got created, like this the each and every departments got created. One company is there, right? So it might possible that one single post basically will get create, and that person is going to be going to contribute in then the planet creation. So for that basically the planet company, sorry, the power companies are there. They basically have the list of the data that this person is going to generate this energy. So that data basically it's a very critical, right? Because you are not creating any car, you are not creating any buildings, you are creating the planets from the company. That is basically the in software company. How many companies are there? Like TCS is there, Accenture is there, IBM is there, Microsoft is there, Oracle is there, then PHP is there, Python is there, C is there, C++ is there, Java is there, mainframe is there, then D2K is there, Visual Basic is there, ASP is there. This basically what comes into the Microsoft. So Salesforce is there, SAP is there. So like this, basically there are many companies basically. They are basically, for example, there is one SAP company or Microsoft company. So they might be not creating one or two planets. They might be into thousands of planet creators creation design. So they basically have a track of each and every software. For example, there are around 2 crore software which is ongoing with the help of the Microsoft. Assume that it's a .NET. So 2 crore project is ongoing, and they have the list of the planet's creation or the some creation what is going to create from that 2 crore software. So they have the up to that level list basically. Up to that level list, each and every software company basically have, right? So up to that level basically the creation basically has design. So like this basically, because why basically we have discussed here. Basically this creation basically we are ongoing, so that basically why we have discussed this here, because each and every energies are going to use and is getting used in universe creation basically, and up to what level power basically is human is having, that also basically the each and every department basically know. So here basically we are discussing that how the planets are going to create, that basically we have discussed just now. So now basically the point has reached to the formula again, right? And the formula basically is set of attributes, and set of attribute basically is set of balance sheets, and set of balance sheets converts to set of attributes, and set of attributes basically comes into the plus, minus, and division of the attributes. So that is basically by default the plus minus of the balance sheet. So that is the thing basically we have reached. And now basically here the why basically Bollywood basically is always connected, because .NET is not created first. .NET in my, that basically is a Microsoft the company product, that has not created first. First the 3000 buildings has created, right? First the 3000 buildings has created. So this is basically 188 number part. In 189 basically we are going to discuss little bit more about this topic only, that is basically the Bollywood basically knows each and everything about the software industry, and .NET has not created first. First, the construction department, that is basically the cities, that are basically 3000 cities has created first.